Welcome to Be Ablaze. We're lighting a fire in you to move you from ordinary to extraordinary, living out your blaze for life. I am your host, Polly Hamp. Let's be ablaze. Imagine this for a moment. You're sitting in a car, your foot is pressed all the way down on the accelerator. The engine is revving loud, the vibration pulsing through you. But the car is still in neutral. You're not going anywhere, but your system is working overtime. Now, imagine the same thing happening in your body day after day after day. That's what happens when you've lived through trauma or abuse. Your nervous system gets stuck on go, constantly scanning for danger, bracing for impact, trying to protect you, and the constant state of survival, it takes a toll. Today, I want to talk to you about what happens when trauma and abuse don't just affect your mind and your body, because it's very hard to heal when your body still believes it's in a battle. As Gabor Maté says, who I will be quoting a lot today in this episode, when you don't know how to say no, your body will say it for you. And I have seen that play out time and time again. Welcome to Be Ablaze, where we spend some time really talking about the mind-body connection and also what is that fiery blaze that is inside of you that has you want to keep moving towards wholeness and healing. So let's talk about living in fight, flight, or freeze. So when experiencing ongoing trauma, especially in childhood or abusive relationships, our nervous systems adapt. It learns to stay alert at all times. So we live in a constant fight, flight, or freeze. It's like that car with the foot on the gas, but the gear never shifts. So our bodies can only handle that for so long before it starts showing up physically through chronic pain, digestive issues, hormone imbalances, adrenal fatigue, and more. So your adrenals are constantly pumping stress hormones. Your organs are working overtime. It's survival mode. But here's the truth. You can't heal your nervous system when you're in a constant battle. So think about if you are being chased by a saber-toothed tiger all the time, and you need to stop and get a drink of water at the creek, but you know that there's a saber-toothed tiger hunting you down. You are going to have a very difficult time slowing down, pausing, because your nervous system is designed to keep you not dead. You've heard me say it 100 times. Your nervous system is designed to keep you alive. And so it is going to fight, flight, or freeze to keep you safe. Because your nervous system, remember, is not the enemy. So here's the truth. You can't heal your nervous system when you're still in battle. The body doesn't feel safe enough to rest or repair. Healing requires safety. And when you've spent years surviving, safety might not even feel familiar. Let's talk about the cost of unexpressed emotions. One of the most powerful books I've read is by Gabor Maté. I also call him Gabor Mate because you're just Texan. You got to say Gabor Mate. Anyway, if he's ever listening, I hope he's, Polly. I hope he's listening. That'd be awesome. Anyway, his book called When the Body Says No, he talks about unexpressed emotional needs and unspoken emotions. They don't just disappear. They accumulate in the body. He says, a quote from him, "Much of what we call personality is not a fixed set of traits, only coping mechanisms a person acquired in childhood." I think this is a really hopeful message. It's a sad message because you've learned how to cope and how to survive starting in childhood, especially if you grew up in a traumatic childhood environment. I think what is so hopeful with this is that this is a set of what he calls, much of what we call personality is not a fixed set of traits, only coping mechanisms a person acquired in childhood, which means you can start noticing what's happening in your thoughts, your behaviors, your mind, your nervous system, and you can change those. That is the hopeful piece to this. So that statement really hits deep because if you grew up in an environment where emotions weren't safe, or you were told to just get over it or stuff it down or boys don't cry, Girls are meant to be seen and not heard, and you are punished for expressing your pain or just silenced of, you didn't hurt, that doesn't hurt, get over it. So many parents, so many times when they see their child hurting, it's, you're fine, you're fine. That message translates to, your emotions are too much for me. I need you to tamper them because I can't handle your emotions. Instead of teaching you, hey, you're hurt and your emotions, crying, being scared, seeing blood, like if you scraped your knee, it's like, those are okay. And then how to navigate them. But so many of us were not taught how to do that. You learned to suppress instead of express. Over time, that suppression can literally manifest into illness. So in my clinical work, I've seen it again and again. People with chronic pain, autoimmune conditions, fibromyalgia, who also have a history of trauma and high control relationships. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis back in 2009. And I think about how much I hated me, how I learned how to use hate toward myself, where I'd turn on the inside and attack myself, suppress my emotions, be all jumbled up inside. I didn't even know how to verbalize emotions because I was either distracted. I was like, you're fine, look over there. Whereas, okay, I just scraped my knee, I want to cry. I know growing up, it was something of, I want to help you not hurt. However, it didn't teach me how to express my emotions and feel safe in those emotions. And then coming out of sexual abuse as a child, learning that you have to control yourself. You're not allowed to tell. You have to protect the abuser. And all of those mindset tricks that happened as a child, which created, like what Gabor Maté said, what we call personality is not a fixed set of traits, only coping mechanisms a person acquires in childhood. So I learned how to cope. And I took that through my adulthood because that's what I learned. Not because I'm bad, but that's how I learned how to survive. The high control relationships, the abuse, the trauma, me turning on myself and attacking myself, literally that's what an autoimmune disease does, is the immune system turns on itself and attacks it. That affected my health at extreme levels, which eventually turned into, I believe, rheumatoid arthritis. And the healing work I've done, we'll talk about that in a little bit, just really learning how to stay connected, even though I still have some flare-ups and pain, it is not how it used to be. I remember working with one woman in particular who came to me with years of chronic pain. So as we worked through emotional healing, her pain disappeared. She began to get better. She started setting boundaries. She started communicating her emotional needs. She started really staying connected to herself. However, she was finally feeling free, but then her husband told her to stop talking about her healing journey because it made him uncomfortable. You hear the pattern. Like, he struggled with it because of that controlling environment, and he no longer wanted to hear her express her pain, hear her express her needs. And when she decided and chose to silence herself again, the pain came back. Because our bodies are going to tell us what's going on in our belief system. That is the power of unexpressed emotions. The body will speak what the mouth refuses to do. Now let's take a second and talk about the chemistry of emotions. The nervous system, like I said earlier, is beautifully designed. It is loyal to your survival, but it needs signals that it's safe before it can shift from protection to restoration. And it's not just physical safety, it's emotional safety too. So healing begins when the body feels safe enough to rest, express, and release. Think about that picture of you're being chased down by a saber-toothed tiger. You do not feel safe to rest by the waters to get a sip of water. If you need to get a sip of water, you're going to be on high alert because you're like, I am thirsty, but I'm going to be on high alert instead of restful and peaceful. It's not just, again, physical safety, it is emotional safety. Healing begins when the body feels safe enough to rest, express, and release. That's why part of trauma recovery is learning to create safety through boundaries, through healthy expression, through supportive relationships, through small, consistent signals that say you are safe now. Y'all, that takes work. Like when you start doing this work and you start setting the boundaries, and then it's that, hold on, I am safe, which moves you up into that connected part of your brain, your limbic system and your neocortex, that helps you speak to the downstairs part of your brain, the brain stem, and where all the cortisol and adrenaline is released. So your environment may start being safe and you're getting yourself to a place of safety. However, you also need to have those consistent signals that say you are safe now. So it's not just about perfection, it's about giving your nervous system permission to finally exhale. Let's talk about how to begin reclaiming safety and healing. I know we're going through this podcast pretty quickly. I'm going to bring in some guests pretty soon that are experts in the abuse advocacy world that can really speak into the abuse patterns and how things go on and how you can start setting boundaries, and also give you some resources. But what I really want to introduce you into today, if this conversation is new to you, is really recognizing what is happening to your body if you are in an abusive relationship, if you are in a controlling relationship, if you've come out of a traumatic relationship or a traumatic childhood, and your body is just on guard all of the time. So really, that is what I'm unpacking today. And so I know it's a lot of information in a pretty short period of time, but I will make sure I put in the show notes Gabor Maté's book, When the Body Says No. There's also Kolk, his book, When the Body Keeps the Score. There's some great books on CPTSD, but I will make sure all of those books are in the show notes, as well as my book, which is Cherish Shattered Innocence, Restored Hope. And of course, the Tada Think Differently About Health course that really helps you learn how to reconnect to your body, mind, and your spirit. So let's talk about beginning to reclaiming your safety and healing. What does that actually look like? So here are a few small but powerful ways to start creating safety in your body and your life. First, listen to your body. So many of us are so disconnected from our bodies. We don't even recognize, like we might turn on it, we hate it, we look at it, but I don't really want to think about it. But we're so disconnected from it, and we wonder why we're in so much pain and frustration. But when you're disconnected from self, it's very difficult to heal. So your symptoms, when you're listening to your body, are not the enemy. They're messengers. Again, Dr. Gabor Maté says, learn to read symptoms not only as problems to be overcome, but as messages to be healed. I love that quote. I'm going to say it again. Learn to read the symptoms not only as problems to be overcome, but as messages to be healed. Remember, everything is information. Everything that comes at us is information. As I always say, NLP presupposition, one of my favorites, is there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. Everything has feedback. Everything is information. So if your body is riddled with pain, if you are riddled with anxiety, if you deal with panic attacks, if you have an autoimmune disease, if you're dealing with stress, you've got tense shoulders, a tight back, gut issues, all of that, your body, remember, they are not the enemy. They're messengers. Your body's trying to tell you something, going, hey, something's off. And if we're not going to deal with it, I'm going to express it in pain. So hopefully at some point you pause long enough to be able to look at this and begin to heal it. The second thing I want to talk about is express instead of suppress. So that could be journaling, therapy, crying, dancing, praying, or even saying out loud, this hurts. So your emotions are meant to move. Remember, emotions are energy in motion. And we don't want to ignore them, because if we suppress them, again, they're going to come out as messengers physically in your body. And it is this place of when you start moving them, one of the things I do is if I start feeling pain and I need to put language to the pain or language to whatever experience I'm having, I see myself actually pulling that pain out from the place that the pain is at. And I start putting words to it of, okay, I see this as stress. This is frustration. This is because I didn't set a boundary and now there's consequences, or consequences because of the boundary. Whatever that is, like, I am going to put language to it and develop my emotional intelligence to be able to really start healing the internal wounds instead of keeping them and stuffing them on the inside where they will express themselves in multiple different ways. The other thing is to set boundaries. Saying no doesn't mean you're unkind. It makes you whole. Remember, if you don't say no, your body will. Think about that. If you don't say no, your body will shut down. If you're not getting the rest that you need, think about that. It's like you run hard, and all of a sudden you get sick. And you're like, oh, why do I get sick? It's because you didn't pause. You didn't take time to rest in the in-betweens of doing life, and your body is going to do it for you if you don't. So before your body says no, start saying no and setting boundaries to things around you that are trying to push in on your expectations, push in on your own boundaries of things that you're letting people have their way with you instead of saying, no, I'm not going to do this. And for those who have a hard time setting boundaries, one of the things that I say that, especially when you first start setting boundaries, because sometimes setting boundaries feels cruel, especially if you were a people pleaser or recovering people pleaser, as I like to say, it's that I love me so much that I am not going to allow you to keep putting on me what's not my responsibility to take care of. So I'm going to set a boundary. And if it's helpful, you can say, I love them so much. I love you so much that I'm going to set a boundary because I'm not going to let you operate out of a version of yourself that is not you. You are operating out of a false version of who you think you are. And I love you so much, I'm not going to let you do that. So I'm going to set a boundary so I no longer take responsibility for your emotional outbursts. I'm no longer going to try to manage your control or your emotions with me. And I'm going to set a boundary and no longer accept that as my own reality. Y'all, it's hard. It is hard to set boundaries. But if you do not do that, your body will stay in that like that car, that revving, that 4,000 RPMs, and the adrenaline and cortisol always rushing through your body. If you don't set boundaries, your body will. Another thing to do is to practice your nervous system regulation. Gentle movement, deep breathing, time in nature, grounding your body, all tell your nervous system we are safe. One of my favorite things to do when I've just pushed myself to the limit, if I haven't been setting boundaries, if I've just been running too hard and going, I'll rest tomorrow, I'll do this tomorrow, is when I finally go, okay, I've got to pause. You've heard me talk about, if you haven't heard me talk about POP, it's POP, the power of pause. And I will take myself outside, which if you can do this every day, do it every day. Get in the sunshine. Sometimes if we live in the grayer states, especially in the winters, we're coming up into right now, you may have some gray days, but go outside, take your socks and shoes off and go stand in the grass and just take some really deep breaths in the sunshine. If you don't have sunshine, it doesn't matter. It's great to get outside. You're still getting the UV rays from even if you have clouds. And so you're still getting the benefits of light. So take your socks and shoes off, stand in the grass, which is grounding. And even if it's freezing, cold is not bad for you. You don't get colds because of it being cold. The cold is actually invigorating and it feels lovely. And do some movements outside, go for a walk. Make those times during the day to do that, because if you don't, remember, your body will start doing it for you. The other thing is to get support. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. Find some safe people, a trauma-informed therapist, or a supportive community, healing happens in connection. And this is that place of like, when you start moving into some healing communities, become an observer. You don't have to jump in and tell your whole story at once, because then you might feel like you violated yourself when you do that. And it is that place of, see if this community is safe. Put some little things out there. Just put your toes in the water and see if it's safe. And the thing that you're doing when you do that is you're actually retraining yourself. You're retraining your mind and your body and your nervous system to start trusting you, because you are moving slowly into a community that may offer safety. However, sometimes those kinds of communities are not always safe for whatever reason. And so if you join a community, a supportive community like that, please go slow. Take your time, get to know the community. You don't have to bleed out at the beginning. Go slow, because not only will that show you what that community is about, and observation, you observing that community, your body and your nervous system is observing you. And remember, it's all connected. And when you protect your nervous system and what you share, your body says, oh my gosh, wait, we are safe. We're safe to do this. And then when you start thinking that the community is safe, you start putting a little bit of stuff out there and see how it's responded to. Take that time to do that. The same thing I want to talk about picking a therapist or a counselor, trauma-informed, trauma-trained, all that. That counselor or that therapist works for you. So if you do not feel safe with that counselor, if you do not feel comfortable with that counselor, you don't have to keep going. It might take a while to find a counselor or a therapist that fits you, and that's okay. You don't have to stay with somebody that doesn't feel safe to you, that doesn't feel connected to you. Again, it's that thing of, when you do that, you're setting boundaries for yourself, and your body and your nervous system notice that. But if you keep going to a counselor that you feel uncomfortable with, you feel judged by, you feel like all they give is advice instead of listening to you, the tools are not helping you move forward in your safety and health and healing, fire them and go find somebody else. Sorry, I'm a little bit passionate about that one, because I have heard some terrifying counseling client stories where the client just stays in it because they think the counselor is right. Not all counselors are created equal. Just not all doctors are created equal. Not all car mechanics are created equal. If you do not feel safe and comfortable and heard and empathized with, but then also giving a healthy set of tools and ways to start healing, then you don't have to see them anymore. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Don't waste their time. And you go find another one. But it's hard work. So just know that your first one may not be the best counseling experience. Your second one may not be the best counseling experience. But that doesn't mean there's not great counselors and therapists out there that can help you. Okay. So I just want to say, your body isn't broken. It's communicating. It's been protecting you this whole time. So tell your body thank you. Just say thank you, body. I know we've been through hell and back. It is hard. And you may be living in a present hell right now, where your body is on fire, your mind is on fire, your nervous system is on fire. Your body is not the enemy. Your nervous system is not the enemy. Take a cue from your environment and the expressions of what's happening on the inside of you as information, and tell your body, thank you. Do it right now. Say, thank you, body, for protecting me in the way that you know how to protect me. And I'm going to start learning new ways to heal so we don't have to stay in protection mode all the time. Also, the same system that has protected you can also help you heal. Trauma and abuse doesn't just live in your memories. They live in your tissues, your breath, your heart rate, your hormones, your nervous system, every part of you. If you think about holistic, you are a whole being and every part of it is affected. Healing is possible. It has been my own journey and my own experience of always wanting to believe that people can actually fully heal, but not really knowing that you could. It's like I have a scar on my arm from a snowmobile accident, and that scar will always be there. However, the bone has been healed. The 2 bones that shattered have been healed in my arm. I just have some scar tissue. I may have memories of the accident. However, I am healed. And in this journey and the work that I have personally done in my own trauma and abuse story journey, I have learned that you can actually fully heal. So have hope, have expectation, have desire of going, I can fully heal. And I don't know when that's going to be. And I don't know the process of exactly how it will play out. However, I know that I can heal. So when you begin to listen to your body, express what's been silenced, and create real safety, and give your system permission to rest, repair, and thrive again. The nervous system is beautifully designed. It's loyal to your survival, but it needs signals that it's safe before it can shift from protection to restoration. And I just want to say that's not just physical safety, it's emotional safety too. So healing begins when the body feels safe enough to rest, express, and release. You are worth this fight. You are worth the full healing and the full restoration. Your body, again, is not your enemy. It is your ally. It's been fighting for you this whole time. It's so awesome. Your body has been fighting for you this whole time. If this episode resonated with you, will you please share it with someone who might need to hear it? That they are not broken. And if you're ready to begin reconnecting with your body and healing through, ta-da, Think Differently About Health, please go check it out and come and join me, because in ta-da and Think Differently About Health, we do all of this work. We do mind-body connection. We talk about internal dialogues. We really dig into the processes of healing your nervous system, setting boundaries, getting to the healthiest version of you so your body trusts you. I am Polly Hamp, and this is Be Ablaze. So I want you to stay fiery, bold, kind, and remember, you are worth the healing. Thanks for tuning in to Be Ablaze podcast. If today's episode sparked something in you, don't keep the fire to yourself. Follow, like, download, and share it with a friend who needs the fire. Let's keep blazing trails together. This is Polly Hamp, and I will see you next time.